And we're live. Good evening, Reds. Good to have you on. Welcome to Jarvis's Corner and MUFC Realist TV. Tonight we have a show, and I will try to bring you a different perspective on things. I have the creator of the Bournemouth fan channel, Up the Cherries in all departments, Craig Neville, coming in, and we will talk about the game. He will give his perspective on the game. Me and Stu and Tom Journalist One will be here and try to answer and give a lot of questions to Craig. So stay tuned, and we will be back after the intro.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to...
Good evening, everybody. This is Jarvis Cocker on Jarvis Cocker's Corner. Tonight we have a special show for you guys. We are going to talk about the Man United Bournemouth game, who ended in a 2-2 draw. With me tonight I have Craig and I have Stu Wally. How are you doing, Stu?
Yeah, good. Had a really good weekend. The mighty Tipton Town were back in action after a few weeks layoff, and victorious. Captains to victory by yours truly. So no, it was a really good game. Really enjoyed it. We're away again this week, actually, coming up. So quite looking forward to it. The women's team, of course, made the FA Cup final, which is terrific. I think it's the first time we've beaten Chelsea as well. So is there a Emma Hayes, Jurgen Klopp, I'm leaving type thing going on, where players are downing tools for the so-called maestros? Who knows? Great to see loads of people in the VAR room. Good to see you, Jamie. Good to see you, Neil. Your good old friend Yala. He's here, as always.
Yala is always here. Yala is always here. Yeah.
Who else have we got today? Let's have a quick scroll. Let's have a look. So we got Neil Driscoll as well. Ian McDonald's back. Let's see, who else have we got? Sanjay's here. I think Sanjay. He's quite regular, isn't he, Sanjay?
He is.
Yeah, I think the gaffer's in the background, which is ideal. So loads of you in the chat already, and welcome obviously to our resident Bournemouth supporter, Craig. Good to have you on board, mate.
Thank you so much, Stu, and thank you for inviting me, Jarvis. It's a pleasure to be on here to discuss the weekend's controversial game, so to speak. We'll get back. I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. First of all, Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, your fan channel, and which team you support.
Yeah, no problem. So the channel is called UTC IAD, Up the Cherries in all departments. So what we do is we do a number of shows with former players. We also have some special guests that have come on. So for the Manchester United game, we had Gaz Whelan from the Happy Mondays. In fact, I've already done our preview for the Aston Villa game, which I'm sure you're hoping that we can win that, just in case there's an outside chance. So, yeah, I'm sure you're hoping for that. So we had Richie Neville from the Boy Band 5 on for that. So we have all these sort of guests.
From where?
From the Boy Band 5.
5. Yeah.
Five. If you're getting down.
You don't know anything about boy band music. Have you heard about New Kids on the Block?
Oh no, I don't. No, I know New Kids on the Block. Yeah, I do.
That's-
But five, I don't recall them. Were they any good?
Yeah, they had 3 number ones. They also performed with Brian May and Roger Taylor
Mm.
at the Brit Awards in 2000. So, yeah, do go and check that out after the show because
Yeah, I can
tell
live
you
with
what,
Brian May, definitely. But yeah, just say to him, Craig, your old mate Stu wants to know if you're any good.
yeah,
See,
I shall do. I
see what
shall
he says. See what he says.
yeah, I will do. But Harry Redknapp also comes on quite a bit as well. So
Excellent.
yeah, we're quite well known for being Harry's resident YouTube channel, really.
Oh,
Superb. Excellent.
that sounds really interesting. This is what I would like to do: interview a former manager or something like that. Try to figure out what's really going on behind the scenes, because it's
Yeah,
super interesting in a way. Because we see it from one perspective, from the fan perspective, and the managers, ex-managers, ex-players have a different perspective from the inside. And this is the interesting part. And we actually had a former Man United player on the show a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
and yeah, and that was fantastic. He could tell so many stories about Roy Keane and
Oh, God, yeah,
Solskjaer and a lot of,
he's got
yeah.
some
So
great ones, hasn't
excellent.
yeah, that was
he?
a great show. So let's just dig in and start with the show. First of all, people, if you haven't, please hit the like and subscribe if you haven't, and give us a retweet on Twitter. It will help out the channel. And then while you're at it, go and give Craig a like and up the cherries in all departments. It sounds like a good channel. I just watched half a show right now just to see your perspective a little bit, so I'm prepared for what's coming.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, something happened with my screen. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
So
good.
first of all, Craig, can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit of how you saw the game, the draw, 2-2 draw against Man United?
So prior to the game, I did say that a draw would be a good result. I did think Eric Ten Hag was going to um, play to stop what happened at Old Trafford. What we did at Old Trafford is, like we said before, we pressed Manchester United high. We caused problems at the back. To be honest, it's one of the best performances I've seen from our Premier League years, without a
Mm.
shadow of a doubt, up at Old Trafford. A lot of people did say, well, Man United were poor that day. I don't take that. I think that we were, outstanding. And I thought we had played a very, very good game. Um, the lineup was as I thought it was going to be. There was no real big surprises. Just the positioning of certain players was a little bit different than what I
Mhm.
expected. Um, I was surprised to see Sinistera playing, to be fair. But, I think in hindsight, that decision shouldn't have been made to play him. Of course, he did come off fairly early, but we started the game very, very well. And of course, Solanke, a very
Yeah.
well taken goal. Very, very well taken goal. Of course, Bruno Fernandes's goal. It, it sat up perfectly for him. Sat up perfectly for him. There's absolutely no complaints. Defensively, it was always going to be quite difficult. And then, of course, Justin Kluivert, he's got that trickery, he's got that speed. He's reminds me a little bit of his father, but maybe with a bit more of an eye for goal, to be honest, at the moment. And
Oh.
I think he's really, a really, really exciting player.
Mm.
Of course, he's still a youngster, an exciting player. Of course, plays in midfield, um, more attacking, but I think he's coming into his own now, whereas maybe he was a little bit slower to get going. um, and then I think it's probably best that we talk about the decisions now. um, so of course there's 4 contentious decisions, I would say. The first one is with regards to the shot from just outside the box. Hits Harry Maguire on the top of the arm. Hand on heart, never a penalty, never a penalty. But my question here for you guys is, of course, Manchester United went up the other end, and the ball hit Adam Smith in the same sort of place on this shoulder. So it hit him in literally the same sort of place. However, I've seen conflicting arguments about this. I don't think it was a penalty. If Maguire's isn't a penalty, Smith's isn't a penalty. Um, some people have said, though, there is the movement, whereas Maguire stood still, kind of got out of the way.
Mm.
There was a kind of slight movement towards the ball, and that's why the referee gave it. But I think it was extremely harsh, and VAR didn't even look at it, which, was. See, this is the annoying thing with VAR for me, is why it looks at certain decisions and won't look at others.
Mm.
I've seen. To be honest, I did a video afterwards after this game, and I was quite abrupt, quite furious about it. Let it off my chest. Bit of swearing, gotta say that. But at the same time, now on reflection, I think you can see why the referee might have given it, but still, I don't
Mm.
think either of those were penalties. Now, there was a run through from Ryan Christie, and this is the first one, the run through, where he went to ground, and it was a booking for Ryan Christie. Of course, Lewis Cook got involved; he was booked as well. I think that was never a penalty, never ever a penalty. But I don't think he was trying to win it. I don't think he was trying to win it either. And I think Lewis Cook might have got the wrong idea. Um, but to book both of them was quite harsh. Quite harsh. I think he lost his
Mm.
footing. The one in injury time, though, um, personally, I think 100% that was a penalty. The action starts outside the box, and this is what Mark McAdam from Sky Sports, he's actually put it on Twitter or X or whatever you call it nowadays. Um, what happens is it starts outside the box. There is a holding, and it continues within the box. Now, under some rule, I think it's 12.3. I'll double check that, but under that rule, if that action continues into the box, that's actually a penalty. Um, and I feel that we was a little bit hard done by on that. I don't take this. There's been some people say, "Oh well, it's the top six bias." I don't take that. I think that's a load of
Mm.
rubbish. But hand on heart, I'd be saying the same if it was Crystal Palace or Luton or Burnley or Sheffield United. I personally think that was a penalty at the end, and you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
We've lost out on this one. At the end of the day, it's hard to take because I've got to be honest. At that point, I thought we can do the double over Man United. This is a big achievement, you know. And yeah, it was snatched away from us. The free kick was poor, to be honest. I don't really get what he was trying to do. He was trying to chip it over the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which he successfully did, but there was no power on it. So,
Mm.
yeah, that was a bit disappointing. But overall, I think I would have taken the point before the match kicked off. After it, I still take the point. I still take the point. I'm happy with the point. However, as everybody knows, as football fans, we always want a little bit more. And
Mm.
really, effectively, a couple of places in the Premier League, that could have been an extra 24 million for ourselves. So, yeah, it's one of those. It probably doesn't do either side any
Yeah.
good because it
No.
doesn't help you push for the Champions League places, which is where you want to get to. It doesn't help us get to, on the I've said before, I don't really want Europe because I think it would stretch our side too much.
Yeah.
But I'd like to be in contention, and I'd like to finish. If we can finish eighth, I'd be happy with that season. I'd be happy with that season, and the
Yeah.
financial.
What's your highest position in the Premier League since you arrived?
It is 8th.
Yeah, it's 8. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're aiming for the highest goal tally for the season ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's pretty impressive, and as I mentioned, we did a for people who don't know, we did a preview on All for United together, you and I, and we talked about it, and I said in that preview I have a lot of respect for Bournemouth and how they are set up as a team. I think they look very solid, and their manager Andoni Iraola, he's an astute manager, tactical, and I
yeah.
like how he set up his team, and he has built a very solid foundation of this Bournemouth team at the moment. So before the game, my prediction was a draw 1-1, but I wasn't far away from that draw, and we could easily have lost the game at the end of the dying minutes. When the referee gave you guys a penalty. But this is why I want you as a guest, because I want a different perspective. But I want to dig more, because these episodes we all talked about them. I want to dig more into how this team was set up, what Andoni Iraola did tactically to neutralize Ten Hag's transition play and directness, and to stop our attacks. But before we go to that,
Rushmano, the legend. Rushmano, the legend.
Oh my God! 20 gifted memberships from Rushmano. Thank you very much, Rushmano. That's fantastic, and you get to see Mr. John Lennon in his blue glasses.
You do indeed. Where's your old whistle? Where's it gone?
It's broke. I only have this.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Rushmano, I'll apologise on Jarvis's behalf. Terrible, that is. Terrible. Thank you very much, old friend. Super.
Fantastic, Rushmano. I have to open this to read the new members. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry for the delay.
Yes,
okay. We have 20 new members, and we are starting with the Vootinator. One new member. Big up, Vootinator. Thomas Svedios, Nick Kandugan, Riot V, Alien Tenno, Nudgeable, Ed Barrett, Pig Ricer, Simon Davis, Richard Trotsky, Johan, MFC, Mattis Corner. Oh, Mattis Corner. Sam V. George, Steve Brown, Verona Viana, Leo, Weiss Leo, and Farad SB, Ronan Joshi, Kevin McGee, Dwayne Blackwood, so many, MLK, Miba Vongwe, and Manchester 7. Welcome to the club, 20 new members to the MUFC Realist TV team. Remember to thank Rushmano. Before we go back to Craig on the tactical parts from Iraola, I'm interested to hearing Stu's take on it. What did Ten Hag do in this game? How did he set up his team, and what did he prefer? What was his actual game plan? Because it didn't seem to work.
As you would imagine, Jarvis, I saw it completely different to 90% of the fan base. It was still moaning today, actually, and rightly so, because it wasn't the best performance. I thought the game was interesting, actually. I know we came out something like 57% possession. And for me, I don't really care about possession. You can have 2% possession, win the game 1-0. It's an irrelevance possession. It's what you do with that possession that's the key. And there are times when you play a team like Bournemouth, who will rush you, who will be aggressive, who will get in your face, who will scream at you. And it kind of frightens some of our players, most of our players. And Jarvis, you know this as well as I do, and Craig, if you play the game, which I'm sure you do, you'll know as well as I do. There are occasions where you've absolutely got to take the sting out of the game. I'm not saying, punch your way to flatten the opposition. You take the sting out of the game of football. You get the ball and you hold it, bang, and you allow somebody like Kluivert to come running at you. And as soon as he comes back to you, you pop it off. Little 2-yard, little dink and away. So Kluivert's running around.
Yeah.
It's all right being pressed. When you're pressing and you're winning, you don't lose energy. When you're pressing and you don't win the ball, you lose energy. And that's the key to defeating teams like Bournemouth. Now, I famously once said, Craig, and I got absolutely battered for it, And when we got beat to Brentford last season, 4-0 at their place,
Yeah.
I made a point that Brentford were running around like under eights. They just played 8-year-old football running around like sheep. And
Yeah.
when you looked exactly what they did nothing new. It was nothing groundbreaking.
Mhm.
Bournemouth don't play like that, but they play similarly. So I'm not having a pop here. I'm just saying
Yeah.
similarly with your aggression and your speed. And you can easily counteract it. It's like a good boxer. If you're coming at me, you're punching. I'm just going to jab you quickly. Move back again. I'm going to move back. And this is what we don't do. We don't do this very well at all. We've got the actual players to be able to do it. I'm not talking about our back four, but Casemiro, he doesn't need to run at 50 miles an hour anymore. He needs to get it. He needs to pop it off.
Yeah.
Straight to Bruno. Just get it and just pop it off. Once you start taking the sting out of a game of football and you disrupt what you were doing, I'm not saying you didn't have a plan B or a plan C. I'm just saying once you disrupt the opposition, you then play yourself back into the game. And we didn't do that. I think you're right. I think we got lucky to an extent with Bruno's goals, to be fair. I don't take issue with you on the penalties at all. Actually, I kind of like your description. I think you're right. I said to Jarvis knows me. Don't sit on the fence. People know me on here. I don't sit on the fence. I thought we got very, very lucky with our spot kick. I understand what they were talking about with the motion. I get it. I do. I understand the motion, and I think Jarvis, when he was on the review show, made a point about the motion side of it. I get it. I understand it. But I don't like handball anyway. I don't like that nobody knows what's handball anymore. Nobody's got a clue. I don't care what anyone says. Nobody's got a clue. Whether it touches him here, whether it touches him here, whether his hand's here, whether it's here. Nobody's got a clue. I just don't get. Now, I'm still playing, Greg, so I know that momentum will carry my arm, and there's nothing I can do about it. If I'm trying to stabilize myself, I'm trying to position myself in a specific area, I know that my arm's going to flap around or loose, or I'm going to grab somebody with it, because that's just the way that it is. So, kind of agree with you on both on that one. I don't think it was a penalty. Would I have taken it as a Manchester United fan? Absolutely. Would you have taken it as a Bournemouth fan? Absolutely. But that's football. Now, I've got no issue with that. But I do like a fan of the opposition, and I do like our VAR room because they're very, very fair. Our supporters and our subscribers, very, very fair. And you will find that most people would be very, very awkward about that particular penalty. Mm-hmm. What I would say about the final one with Christian, I'm going to tell you something now as a defender. God, Camboire, if he'd stood up, Christie would have bounced off him. Yeah. And we would have got the free kick. As stupid as that sounds. Yeah. And it's all about momentum. I'm not saying Camboire is a big, strong, powerful man. It's all about momentum. If he'd stood himself just slightly to the right or the left, but he got his legs kind of spread like that, Christie would have just bounced off him. And he would have done that with anyone because of the pace that he was going at. And then the ref goes, free kick to us because he's collided into Camboire. Well, he's standing there like that going, come on, ref. I've always. He didn't do it. A little bit of inexperience. You can't argue with that. And again, Jarvis, me and Jarvis are on the same page on this one. He had nowhere to go anyway, Camboire. Had zero place to go. But it's unfair of me to criticise him. It really is, and I'm not criticising him. But I think if he thought about it, which he would have done on Sunday and today, he would have thought about what he was going to do again, and would he do it differently this time? He would have. Yeah. You wouldn't have this contentious. And I'm with you, by the way. You're right. By the letter of the law, if it starts outside the penalty area and it ends inside the penalty area, we've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. So I just felt that Camboire at that particular time just showed a little bit of inexperience.
Yeah.
Was there a deserved victor in the game? This is where I see it different. I don't think there was.
No.
Again, I'm not going to pop at Bournemouth. I'm not. I just didn't think there was a deserved victor. I don't think you did enough when you were on top. I don't think you were clinical enough when you were on top. And I actually think the play you were talking about, Sinestri.
Sinister.
Sorry.
Sinister.
I thought he was terrific. You obviously know more about him than me.
Oh, sorry, Senesi in defence.
Oh, I'm
Senesi in
sorry.
defence. Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Sorry. My apologies then.
No, that's all right.
I thought it was
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was terrific. I thought he was absolutely
Yeah.
terrific. And the problem is, and I go again about our lack of aggression. I'd have absolutely slammed him into Rosehead. No offence. I'd have just put him into Rosehead, ask the question of him, and see what he's got. See if he's going to answer your question. We don't do that. I don't know whether it's modern day football or not, but you know, I don't get it. You know, for me, it doesn't make sense. That's what I would do when you've got danger. Same with Clivert. It's quite slight.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing. Do something with him. Just make him answer a question that you're asking of him. One thing I will go with, and I think Jarvis is absolutely right. Massively impressed with your gaffer. You're massively impressed with him. He's put together a side of workhorses that's got a lot of skill, a lot of passion. You're quite direct at times, but you do play out from the back on occasions. I thought you were a bit more direct, which is fine. I've got no issue with that because you go and do what you can to win a game of football. So to sum it up, we didn't use our short game enough. We didn't use our 2 or 3 or 4 yard passing. I'm not talking about little Ponzi triangles. I'm not talking about trying to penetrate them. I'm just talking about allowing you to run out of breath, to run out of energy for even 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. You get as the opposition get a foothold in that game. And that's when our superior technical players, again, I'm not going to go at your alliance because football isn't always about technical. It's about we may well or may not have beaten you. And that's just the way that I saw it. Jarvis knows what I'm like.
You have a great take on things, Stu, and I agree 100% when you talk, because you talk so much sense in a footballing way. I saw a couple of comments here. Brendan Chappell said possession is fine if you know what to do with the ball, but there's a team that are weak on the ball and teams that are dangerous on the ball. And I would say Bournemouth is not a possession type of team, but they are dangerous on the ball. They know what to do. They are effective in a way. And how Iraola sets up his team, I like how he tries to sometimes create overloads on the sides. How he's solid in the central area. You have 2 workhorses, as you said, Stu. In who was it, Christie and Cook? They work extremely well together. And you have a little bit of finesse in Kluivert in the midfield, who sometimes, I don't know who he reminds me of. You mentioned his dad, but you know he's more technical than his dad. And as you mentioned, he has a goal threat. So maybe if he gets some more experience, he will be a great Premier League player in time. But now he's too inconsistent in a way. But you see glimpses of how good he can be. Talking about the game, the second half, I think Bournemouth could have won the game, but they had to do some subs, and they lost the momentum because they don't have the squad to come in and keep up the momentum as they had in the first half when they did their subs. And we all saw United came more into the game in the second half, but I don't give credit to Man United for that. I see the explanation in Bournemouth's substitutions. They lost the threat going forward, and you saw Maguire, for example, was much more comfortable in the second half because he wasn't put under pressure that much.
Well said, well spotted. Something else I wanted to bring up after Craig came back in, and I'm sure you would have mentioned it anyway. We absolutely nullified and almost destroyed Solanke's presence within that second half. Really astute about Kluivert. I think you're right. The biggest problem you've got with Kluivert is I don't think Iraola knows where to play him. I think he's probably a better 10 than maybe a wide player, because I saw him coming from the width more than anything, certainly in the second half. I think he's a better 10 for you. To have that better 10 though, because he's a small, slight player, you need the likes of, in my humble opinion, and it is only humble, David Brooks back in the team. I know he's had problems. I don't know if he's still there, but I know he's had problems. But he's a wonderfully gifted, very astute footballer in terms of his brain. He's one of those that plays with his brain first and his feet second. Whereas Kluivert at the moment, very, very similar actually, to us and Garnacho in terms of think with their feet first, the brain second. But he's only young, isn't he, Justin Clive, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
21.
He is. I think.
Yeah.
21, 22. I have to double check that, but he is a young player. He's not.
Ooh,
He's not
24
really
actually.
24. There we
Yeah.
are.
What is he?
Yeah,
He's been around a
24.
while though, hasn't he? Didn't he start off at Ajax? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He played. I believe he was in the same coaching team. Well, he was being coached by his dad at the time. He's also played for Roma. Of course, that's where we got him from. And the thing is I don't think he's ever found his place. Don't think he's ever found his place, and I'm hoping that is Bournemouth, and we can build him up from there. Just want to go back to your previous point, Stu, as well about David Brooks. Now, David Brooks is actually out on loan at Southampton.
Sorry, I didn't realise that.
He's actually not really getting that much game time for them. There's two theories to this, because I was very, very disappointed, to be fair, when we let him go to Saints, because firstly, I think that David Brooks can do a job. He showed in the game against Swansea in the cup. He's still up to it. The only other thing that I'm thinking is why we have let him go is because, of course, he had Hodgkin lymphoma.
Right.
He did have a setback last season. It looked like, and I was lucky enough to actually go to the training ground. And sadly, it was with a good friend. I spoke to Steve Fletcher, who is an absolute legend at the football club. And Steve Fletcher managed to organise for my friend, who sadly passed away, who had cancer, to actually go round the stadium, meet all the players and everything. David Brooks wasn't there, but at that time it looked as if he was just about to come back. But shortly after that, he had a little bit of a setback. So, he didn't play last season. And then it seems like seemed like he was getting there. It's taken a long time for him to build his body back up, his muscle tissue. This sort of thing, unfortunately, just knocks everything for six.
Well, I can just a quickie there, Craig. I have personal experience of what
Have you?
David has gone through. Yeah, I was 19.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, when I had it, and I know exactly what you're talking about in coming back, because my first game back after, well, I don't know, 2 years maybe. I was lucky, by the way. I didn't have any complications. I was quite lucky, 6 to 8 months of chemotherapy, and that was it. After 2 years, I always remember this. Before I went back to Saturday football, I played five-a-side, and I remember running for the ball, and my legs just collapsed. Just went, my whole legs just collapsed in front of me, and I tried to style it out, and I just couldn't do it. And I remember getting up thinking, fuck me, Jesus, I'm 18 months maybe, 17 months off of chemo, and I can't build myself up. I can't get to where I need to be. It took me another 6 to 8 months to get any kind of strength back in my legs and upper torso. But once you get that, once you pass that threshold, you almost can tick the box and wave it goodbye. It's very strange, very strange.
Yeah, I think why he has gone on loan to Saints and why he might not be getting enough game time is that he at the moment in time, it's no fault of his own, he cannot cope with the intensity that Iriola and the Premier League is probably going to put on him. He'll get there eventually. He will get there. I've got full faith in him. He's a good lad. He looks after himself. I've met him a couple of times. And he's always been. He's not one of these guys who goes out partying and doesn't do all the he does all the right things, so he will get there eventually. It's just such a shame what he's been through, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll get some game time for Saints. Help them through the playoffs as much as they're our local neighbours. You know, we quite like to see them back in the Premier League because we're stuck here on our own in the middle of nowhere. So,
Absolutely.
so
Finally
to be
get
honest,
Jarvis.
yeah, we miss him a little bit. So yeah, hopefully he'll help him through. And you know, he's a good lad. So yeah, hopefully he's got a good career still ahead of him.
Yeah. Stu, Neil Driscoll comes in with the uppercut. He says, Stu, I can't agree. Bournemouth should have won the game. They were the better team in your assessments.
No,
Are you-
Neil's right. Neil's got a good, very, very good knowledge of football. He's been watching football slightly longer than I have, and so that's, you know, I can accept Neil's opinion, and I've got no issues with it at all. No problem.
Yeah, and on that take, we have a cherry in the chat. Matthew Harrison comes in and he said the Bournemouth were the better side, robbed as we should have had the penalty. But if you said at start of the season we would have 4 points of United, I would take it all day.
The thing
So
about
That's my
at the end of the
co-host.
day,
That
he's happy
is.
with the results.
Yeah, the thing about that is, and again, I've got no issues with it. You know, no problem at all. Jarvis has probably not even heard my take on this. I don't think you ever deserve to win a match of football, a game of football. You know, you either win or you lose or you draw. That's it. And as much as players and as supporters and as coaches and as managers, we can complain about, well, we should have a penalty. You can't rely on the referee to win you a game of football. You can only rely on yourselves, the 11 that are out there at any given time. And that's the only thing I would ever say when somebody says to me, we deserve to win. You didn't take your chances. But that was us, you know. That was us. Having said that, though, we didn't have the chances to really take. So, you know, so let's be clear about that. But like I said to you at the very beginning, you can have 2% possession, win the game 1-0, and the rest is kind of irrelevant. So
going back to the game and the stats after the game, it was 43% possession to Bournemouth and 57 to us, but the XG was 164 to 128, so Bournemouth had the bigger chances, and they had 20 shots in total and we had 8 shots. So in a way, I would say Bournemouth was the better team, but they didn't have enough to win the game, but they had their chances. And I would say we only had 2 shots on target that game. Plus
we only had 2 critical, didn't we? We only had 2 critical shots. What was Bournemouth's critical shot count?
They had 5, but the biggest one that didn't score was a header in the crossbar. I think it was from the left back Kirkus, and he had another opportunity, but they went over the header. Yeah. So they could have been up 2-0 to 3-1 at halftime at least. Do you agree, Craig?
Yeah, I think, you know, we actually said in a preview that we were both on before the game that we was going to get chances, and one of Manchester United's failings this season has been, you know, how many opportunities that you've given away. You know, 90 shots against Liverpool, you know, is a bad statistic. But that said, Manchester United haven't been beaten by Liverpool this season. So it shows that there is enough firepower moving forwards. But I'd be very, very concerned, you know, as a Manchester United fan, you know, with regards to those statistics, because, you know, Manchester United is still, for me, the biggest club in this country. I'm not just saying that because I'm here, but they are still the biggest club in this country in terms of history, you know, in terms of what they've done in the Premier League, and so on and so forth. I'm sure throughout the years, you probably haven't had a time like this where you are suffering so many shots. And I think part of that has to come from not so much the defence, but also the midfield, because the defence seems to be holding it out. It seems to be that, you know, the midfield is kind of losing the position there, and that is opening yourselves up. Would you agree with me on that front?
Yeah, I mean, we don't press at the back at the top end of the pitch, so we drop deep. So we almost drop deep to, I don't know, probably the halfway line at times,
Yeah.
and we allow the opposition to walk out. The shot thing is really interesting because I only look at it from a critical point of view. How many critical shots we conceded, and that's anywhere within the goal frame, save or a goal. People always say to me, "Oh, you've conceded 20 shots. You know, how many are on target?" That's always my question. How many are on target? I don't fucking care. How many are on target? Because when I'm out there and I'm on the pitch, I'm looking at the critical side of it.
Yeah.
Always looking at the critical side of it. If somebody's pinging one from 25 yards and it goes over, whatever, mate. Not interested. Don't care. Doesn't interest me. But if somebody's pinging one from 25 yards and it's the bar, it's the post, and the keeper's got to save it, then we've got problems. You've got to deal with that. Okay. So it's always the critical area for me. But your point actually, and Jarvis loves this because he makes this point all the time, and I'm going to let Jarvis explain it in a bit more detail. But he will talk to you about the distance between our attackers, our midfielders, and our defenders. So when Jarvis and me first started talking, I would always talk about the yardage between our midfielders, our defenders. The yardage between our defenders and David De Gea at the time was always about 10 yards. It's a bit different with Anana, who don't have to talk about that. But Jarvis will talk to you about the yardage, 10, 15 yards, whatever it is, between attack and midfield and defence. And that's an area of concern for us right now.
Yeah, but the thing is you have the stretch horizontal and you have it both ways. You know, it's about being compact in the modern day football. Because you have to run a lot and stay compact all the time. Because it's easier to hit a 10-yard pass than a 30-yard pass, basically. So it comes down to simple things. Going back a little bit to the game, when it comes to the first half, I noticed one thing, that Solanke dropped down a lot, and to receive the ball, but he didn't try to turn with the ball and do difficult things. He was always making it easy, like a bounce pass or layoff, and started the attack easy. And that's why Bournemouth is so effective. And for me, that was one of my biggest critics of Ten Hag after the game, because for me, as I would say a normal guy watching football, I saw it right away that Solanke was so involved in Bournemouth's build-up all the time. But we didn't do anything because he had two choices. You could either drop Casemiro and put him on Solanke and stop, block the passing lanes, or he could be more aggressive with one of the center back to push him up. But we did neither of the things. And this is a big problem with me and Ten Hag, because I see his in-game management as not good enough to react to certain things that happens on the pitch that are vital for how the outcome of the game is. But the second half, Solanke didn't have so much to work with, and I think they were a little bit more aware. But I think also I think he's have a slight injury, Solanke, so he wasn't as mobile in the second half. He was more standing static.
Yeah, he's had this injury, and I noticed it against the in the Luton game. I did mention it as well in the preview. Of course, we won that game 4-3. I think they're trying to get him to the end of the season, but in that game, it was a case he kept touching his left thigh, and I thought, oh, why is he doing that? It seems like there's some sort of pull or some sort of tension there. So the physios are doing a good job to keep him going, but the thing is that going to cause more trouble, moving forwards? Now, the problem we do have is without Solanke, we have got Enisu now, who has come in from Getafe.
Isn't Billing a striker?
He can play in that role, but he's better just behind. So just behind Solanke. I thought he did very, very well the other day against Crystal Palace, but for some reason, Iriola doesn't choose to play him all the time. But one thing I would say with Solanke is, and this is a criticism of Ten Hag, of course, Solanke did that in the game at Old Trafford, drops back, and he's done that all season against so many teams, dropping back into a position. He does the easy stuff. He doesn't do anything dramatic, which, maybe Billing you could criticise for trying to be a little bit more clever with the ball. Solanke does do the easy stuff, and then, is in the right place at the right time. Um,
Yeah.
that's why I think he's so highly rated, and why so many teams are being you know linked with him, really, because
Mm,
he's not flamboyant. He's not flamboyant. He's just he's a clever striker. He's a clever striker, and
mm.
really, I think he should get the nods for the England
I
team. To
just
be
want to
perfectly
add,
honest.
Craig, when it comes to a clever striker, because you see
Yeah.
Hoyland in a way when he plays, he tries
Yes.
to do the same thing. He tries to drop down, but Hoyland is not experienced enough to do the simple things.
Mhm.
Often, when he received the ball, he tried to wrestle with the center back, hold on to the ball a little bit too long,
Yeah.
and sometimes he loses the ball. But you see Solanke, he receives the ball, he's clever, just a simple layoff, simple bounce pass, and we move, pass and move. That's how we do it. And I would like Hoyland to take the next step in his build up play, trying to be more of a creator.
It's an
To,
interesting subject that because from the centre half's position, if you're allowing Solanke to do that, you're doing it because he's going away from goal. So you always thought as a centre half, he's moving away from goal. That means he's then got to turn. So if he's moved out 5 yards, he's got to turn. He's got to gain that 5 yards, and you're already in position. Okay, that's fine. But as you say, he's quite clever. So you kind of, as a centre half, you kind of want to tug his shirt a little bit. You kind of want to drop the elbow down his spine a little bit, make him turn around. What are you doing? And it kind of dislodges confidence in many ways. Doesn't always work because sometimes he'll be expecting it. But what you can achieve by doing that, Jarvis, is getting him to back into you, get him to wrap his arm around you. And once you've got that contact with a centre forward, then you've got something tangible you can work with. You've got something you can deal with because you know exactly where he's going to be. And he's not going to roll you. If he's got his arm around you here, he's not going to roll you left or right.
mm,
So this is where, and I look, I hadn't seen this with Solanke before. I've seen very, very similar to what Hoyland does, try and fight. Hoyland will back in. He doesn't actually back in correctly, Hoyland, because what he does, he backs in with both his legs together instead of backing in with his arms and his two legs spread slightly. So if you back in, you got your two legs spread, you're kind of arching your body, you become difficult to get around. You're wider. So then the defender's got to tug you and drag you. And I'd like to see him do that. Solanke doesn't need to do that because Jarvis has picked it up well. Really, really nice, really easy, really fluid. I'm going to take 2 steps off you. Maguire's going to look around. Well, there's nobody behind me, so I ain't going to get done for pace because I can drop back 2-3 yards. So I'm not going to get done for pace. And he's hoping and praying in a way that the midfield will come and help out. As Jarvis said, and Jarvis talks again about the difference and the gap between the midfield. And so Solanke saw it, dropped in 5-6 yards. There's nobody around me. I'll pop it off to whoever, and I'll amble, into the box. And that's if we could get Hoyland to do that, and he will eventually. I mean, he will get there. And
we see him do it sometimes. It's not that he's not doing it at all. But consistently.
not enough. But the interesting thing is, we talk about in-game management, and Jarvis is right to an extent, but he shouldn't need telling.
Yeah.
A man like Maguire or a man like Martinez, a man like Varane, they shouldn't need telling. Cambola, to an extent, yes, but these players shouldn't need telling. If you're going to let him drift, okay, don't let him outside your zone. Don't let him outside that square.
Yeah.
Mark out a square within your brain and don't let him outside of there, because if you do, he's going to cause you a bit more trouble on movement. I think a lot of people were saying they're trying to blame Maguire for the first goal. He didn't come across. Well, he wouldn't have known what to do, really, because he wouldn't have been expecting the Cambola slip for a start. Due to your overly watered pitch, I might add.
Oh, here we go.
I don't think shithousery of that nature since the late 90s. It was terrific to watch. Absolutely terrific.
Do you know what? It's something that has been, and a couple of Bournemouth fans have even said that it's gone against us. There was a Solanke penalty against, I think it was Sheffield United, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it was Sheffield United. And Solanke's got the penalty, and he's just slipped, and it's gone skywards.
Yeah.
And that is because, I do feel, there is a point that I think that one half of the pitch is watered a little bit differently. But
Absolutely.
I
But
guess,
one we should try to do like that, Craig. Look,
yeah.
we didn't wear the right footwear. Okay, we didn't put the right footwear on. Kambwala went down. A couple of players went down. We just didn't wear the right footwear.
Yeah.
And that really is part of the coaching department. Our coaches should have gone on that pitch, taken the Copa Mundials with them, taken the World Cups and made a decision on what they need. And gone back in there and said, fellas, you've got to be in studs this side. It's going to be a pain for you. The opposition side, it's going to be a little bit harder, but you need studs here because you're going to lose your footing.
Yeah.
You can't wear all weather. You can't wear multi-ground. You can't wear any of those because there's so many different types of studs right now.
Yes.
You've got to wear 6 shooters. 6 shooters, we would have been fine. Would have been hard on the feet, your side, but we would have been fine our side. Kambwala probably wouldn't have slipped. But again, I'm old school, Craig. I go back years, mate, and I like stuff like that. I don't have an issue with it. So I'm not criticising Bournemouth because I love stuff like that. I do. It's brilliant.
I just want to add Rosmano's comment before we move on. It's
Sorry.
just Kane is a master of that, Stu.
Yes.
Yeah,
he is. Yeah,
and
he is.
he should be watching his free kick fouls against him. And Kane, he's a master, but it comes with experience. Kane wasn't like this when he was 20 years old or 21 years old as Højlund is. He developed as a striker, and he has developed this game immensely the last 7-8 years in the Premier League.
All Solanke's got to do, Jarvis, is move forward 2 yards, drag the defender in, and stand still and wait for Maguire to to foul. Cheers, mate. Whatever.
The thing is, with all that, with the pitch being watered, it's kind of it's kind of a hidden shithousery, like you say, that we were used to in the 90s, early 90s. Wimbledon was the best one for it, weren't they? They were doing all sorts to cause trouble.
Gang.
But going back to Solanke, I think he's a out and out striker. I think he's a fantastic, all-round striker, I should say. He drops back, and that's why last season, and I think he matured a lot under Gary O'Neill, and of course now Iriola's giving him an extra spin to it. I think he's even more effective, especially with scoring the goals, but also creating things for others. Last season, he probably didn't score as many as we would have probably have liked. However, what he did do was he created stuff for Jefferson Lerma or Philip Billings. Philip Billings, quite an interesting one, and I think this might be actually forming with Justin Kluivert. So what happens is when Solanke drops back deep, you've got the outlets like Christie. Of course, last year we had Lerma. You've got all these players dotted around. Semenyo's a good one. He works very, very well with Solanke. But what will happen, Solanke drops back, and then Billing will push forward a little bit, or Kluivert will push forwards a little bit. And therefore, you've got that kind of switch. And I think it's worked very, very effectively. One thing, like I did say, we used to play at the start of the season. We were playing very much possession-based football, pass, 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 and maybe, like you said, Stu, that could have well been the way to suffocate Bournemouth. Is to control the game.
Yeah.
Whereas what we were doing was we was controlling games, to an extent. That game at Everton at Goodison Park, we controlled for large periods of the game. It's just because we made stupid mistakes at the back. Whereas this, after the Burnley game, and what you saw, implemented so well, so quickly at Old Trafford, was this press from the front. So I don't know if you remember, it was our kickoff, and it went straight in to the top right hand corner of none of the Bournemouth players were there, but of course then you've got to come back at us and already some of our players, you've got Solanke, you've got Christie, they're already pushing, forwards to put pressure on the Manchester United defence from kickoff. That doesn't always work. We did try that against Brighton, and it failed miserably. 16 seconds from kickoff, we conceded our own kickoff. How you do that, I don't know, but but I think Iriola was still implementing, his game plan at that time, and I think he's got it to a T now. But I think Ten Hag did react to it a little bit better than he did at Old Trafford, but still, controlling things in midfield, suffocating us. Let's be fair. I'm not going to turn around and say we've got better players than Manchester United, because I don't think we do. I think we've got hard-working, effective players. I think there is probably some Manchester United players that whoever is in charge, be that Ten Hag or whoever, will need to be shipped out the door. I think as much as I like Marcus Rashford, as a person, and he is a good person, what he did during lockdown, and I've got so much time for him. Unfortunately, he's not working in this style that Ten Hag is implementing.
100%.
Now, do you wait for a new manager, see what you can get from him? Do you send him out on loan to someone like ourselves, who might be able to get his love for the game back? He might be able to play our style, and then take him back, and hope that he might be able to work within the Manchester United side, because there's still a good player in there.
Yeah, Stu, before you go to the comment on Rashford, I just want to bring up one thing. I see the VAR room talk a little bit about mistakes, and I have a great comment here coming from Brendan Chappell. Maybe you can read it out, Stu, on your perfect British English.
Yeah. He said mistakes mostly lead to teams scoring goals. That's the big aspect of football. That's why Cruyff said football is the sum of mistakes. It's true. It's the team that makes the least mistakes wins matches. It's true. Any player that you ever talk to who's made an error, it's how they get over making that error, which is the key to either getting back into the game or losing the game. And that's basically what happens. If you commit an error in the key areas, the critical areas on the pitch, and you can't recover because you're mentally not strong enough to do it, your team is going to lose the game. Absolutely. Yeah. Just quickly on Rashford.
Yeah, and I just want to add on your comment before we move on Rashford too, because I had a talking point on Rashford later, but we can do it right now.
Sure.
But when it comes to mistakes, I just want to say the opposition will always make you make mistake. They will force you in a way to make mistake. And in this game particularly, you had the left back Kirkes. He was wide and in the attack, and he forced Dalot to make a move and move out. And it created an opening between Dalot and Kouambala. And that opening, Kluivert saw, and it was a mistake, but Bournemouth forced us to do that mistake by their system and how they set up. So we can blame players, but we got to remember it's also a tactical game. It's a chess game, how you put your pieces, and you have openings because you put your pieces that way. And at least that's how I see football. So now I said it, Stu, go to Rashford.
Yeah, all I was going to say was it was just really a point that you picked up Rashford. There's two types of arrogance in football. There's arrogance that allow you, like Eric Cantona, to walk into a room, stick your fingers up to anybody you like, go out there and perform. And there's a second type of arrogance which thinks I've already made it. And that arrogance completely shrouds what it was that made you the player, what it was that made you understand and want to love football. Because when you look at Rashford in particular, people don't care about the past. They only talk about the present. What you talk about during COVID, that's gone now. Nobody speaks about that in our fan base. Nobody speaks about it in the press. Nobody speaks about it at all. Football's all about the here and now. And this arrogance that you've already made it is the mother of all fuck-ups in football. It really is. And we've got too many of these types of players that have come through our club just recently. and actually over the last 10 years, that won't allow them to kick on. Rashford should have been at Real Madrid should have been coming and knocking on our door regularly for somebody like Rashford, because he does have a talent. He just refuses to use it. I don't know whether going to PSG, you might get 40 million for him now. Who knows? Would be warranted. You've got a similar issue with Lingard, for example, another one who thinks he thought he made it and he was too arrogant, but it was the wrong type of arrogance, and it's not working for Right and Soul. So what you need is for him and the people around him to kind of wind his neck in a little bit and try and reevaluate what they want from the game. He's best off right now, Rashford, retiring completely. Just retiring from the game, because he's no use to anybody. He's not even a use to himself. When he gets up in the morning, he jumps into his Merc or he jumps into his whatever car he's driving. He drives to the training ground and he's got his poncy little wash bag with him, like they all have nowadays. They walk in with their Louis Vuitton this and their Gucci that. They get to the dressing room, all their kits laid out for them. They don't know what life's about, And when you hear about, Ten Hag's lost the dressing room, Ten Hag shouldn't be doing this, Ten Hag shouldn't be doing, fuck them. You're grown men. If you can't take criticism, public criticism, then you're in the wrong game. You want all this adulation. You love the public adulation you're getting. Well, unfortunately, it comes for both. So people like, somebody like Rashford, Sancho's another one. I mean, crikey, Martial, all these types of players that, they should really, if I was them, if I was in their shoes, I'd be embarrassed, really, to get up in the morning and go to training. I'd be embarrassed because they're clearly not working. They clearly can't be bothered. And Ten Hag, in my opinion, does the right thing by calling these players out. And whether fans like it or not, it's just my opinion. And I think it's right. When you're a professional footballer, as Lucky Singh says, you take the rough with the smooth. You absolutely take the rough with the smooth. And we aren't doing that. When you look at the players that you've got, only 25, 30, 40, maybe 50 grand a week, then it's different, because they're playing for everything. They're playing for pride. They're playing for the families. They're playing for the club. They're playing for the fans. And somebody like Solanke, sorry to say this, I think he'll be at Aston Villa next year, by the way, because I think Watkins is going to move. And I think Solanke is perfect for Villa. He'll be the perfect foil for Villa. He really will. He would have earned that move, though. And I would imagine as fans, you'd think, you know what, fair play to him. He's been here for 2, 3, 4 seasons, and he's given us all for those 4 seasons, 3 seasons. However long he's been with you, you go with our blessing. Rashford, fucking hell, there'll be a fucking parade for when he goes, because we just haven't got this. We just don't have the mentality anymore to want to win, because individually we've got players that can compete and can play when they want to play. And that's it's all about, and I say this all the time, by the way, and I have people don't like it when I say it, but you're the only one that can determine what happens on the football pitch. You can have all the coaching in the world, if players are coached nowadays, which we know they're not. In fact, I think Eric Dyer came out and said that Postecoglou doesn't bother coaching. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't bother coaching. He demands and he trusts players know what to do when they're out there, which is absolutely right. And so if you have a player in your dressing room that needs motivating, fuck him off. Because nobody should need motivating. Nobody. Jarvis would walk to Old Trafford tomorrow. Do it for free. You do it for Bournemouth. You do it for free. You don't need that motivation. And unfortunately, player power today, until somebody absolutely puts a hammer and nail in a coffin on it, it's just going to get worse. And we, as a club, and Manchester United, now need to do that.
To be honest, actually, that all makes perfect sense. Cast our minds back to when Eddie Howe was in charge of this team. Now, of course, the story goes, we was on -17, League Two. We were, in the ship, put nicely. We had bailiffs at the door. We were signing players on free, signing players on loan. We bought back Steve Fletcher, who is an absolute legend. But one thing with Eddie Howe is, and this was the core thing from when I've met him, when I've met people around him as well, is that Eddie Howe had a type of player, and that player had to be a uber professional. They had to be dedicated to the cause. Somebody like Mark Pugh, who was signed from Hereford United for literally peanuts. I love to use Harry Arter as an example, but of course he did go a little bit off the boil towards the end of his time here.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. But when you look at the majority of that team, that through Eddie Howe's time, that team was uber professional, dedicated to the cause. There was people that did let him down, and unfortunately, one of those players, Ryan Fraser, basically, was an absolute disgrace during the COVID period. Refused to sign an extension because he thought that he was going to get a move to Arsenal. That was the talk. That he was going to get his move to Arsenal. It didn't happen in the end. He went to Newcastle, and then of course Eddie turned up there, where Eddie, from when I've met him, he gives people, he gave players second, third, fourth chances. Oh, he gave Jordan Ibe about 10 chances, but he knew when enough was enough. And those players, the majority of the players that he had would be uber dedicated. And when he was signing players, that was, the key attribute. You might have failings, but if you are going to run through walls for this football club, then you're a player that I do want. I think that went a little bit downhill with Scott Parker, but Gary O'Neill, and of course now Andoni Iraola, I think they've both got that back. Iraola is, of course, a Basque manager like Unai Emery, Xabi Alonso, Mikel Arteta, and I think they ask for. There's a reason, and without going too much into it, there's a reason why Aaron Ramsdale has basically been dropped by Arteta, because the professionalism seems to have dropped a bit. I like Aaron, but I think, maybe his professionalism has dropped a little bit. Maybe he has got a little bit above his station. So he's dropped him, and I think that's fair enough. And I think the Basque way and the Basque style of management is just like that. That's why Aston Villa are doing so well. That's why Aston Villa are doing so well under Unai Emery rather than Steven Gerrard, because it's a focused approach and it's, a dedicated approach. And you don't have these players like Marcus Rashford, Sancho. Those players should be able to walk into any team in this division, but they've let themselves down. And unfortunately, Rashford has let Manchester United down. Does he go out on loan? To see, if he can pick something back up, even if it's to the Championship, he might not like it for a while, but it might make him realise, do you know what? I've got it bloody good at Manchester United. I'm playing for easily the biggest club in England. I need to make a go at this, or otherwise my career's in tatters.
Yeah, the thing about Rashford is he'll never go on loan to the Championship. We may as well sell him and get our PSR sorted. Him and McTominay would sort our PSR like that. If we've got a PSR, which we don't really know. There's a couple of things that our fan base is hugely divided on whether or not Ten Hag should stay or should go. Me and Jarvis have been a supporter of Ten Hag to this day. Jarvis is kind of losing patience with him, which I get his reasoning behind it. I'm still okay, as much as I just don't see the point. I don't see the point.
Yeah.
But one thing me and Jarvis have never been able to fathom, and we were speaking about this today, and that is, I've asked over the last couple of weeks, if you get rid of Eric Ten Hag, who are you going to bring in? and you could give me any name. You can give me any name, Iraola, for example, whatever. But I don't want to hear because of his style of play. I'm not interested in that. I want to hear what he's going to bring to the club that Eric Ten Hag doesn't bring to the club, and that's the key element to a manager. It's not all about style of play, because and Jarvis, by the way, I still play for a veterans team. Jarvis played at a good level in Norway when he was coming through, but he no longer plays. But so
it's a long time ago.
Yeah, but we understand the game inside that, as I hope you've got an understanding of. And we know as well as anybody that style of play is just a phrase. It's just a catchphrase. It's a buzz phrase. It's whatever, because when you cross that white line, you get into a hamster wheel. Okay, and whatever you've learned on a Tuesday and a Thursday in the semi-pro world, or a Monday, Tuesday, whatever you've spoken about, the game evolves, and by 2, 3, 4 minutes, it's a different game of football. Completely different game of football. And your point in when you conceded against Brighton for the first 16 seconds, I can't imagine anyone was expecting from the kickoff a long ball forward for the defender just to knock it down to the right winger, which I'm guessing has happened, and they've cut it through like a knife through, and they've scored. So hold on, we didn't do that in training. That didn't happen in training when we played on 11. So what do? You don't all look to the gaffer and go, what do you mean? You get on with it. You use your brain. Exactly. You settle down, you get on with it, and then you make your attempt to play your way through the game, get to half time, and then you regroup. Gaffer gives you a bollocking for the first 16 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever. We were set up better than this, blah, 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 blah. Right, this is what we're going to do because this is what they're doing. And I bet you are 90%. 95%, what you speak about at half time bears no resemblance to what you were talking about during the week to that game, because nothing ever bears. It just doesn't happen, and that's why I call it hamster wheel. You get on that wheel, and then it just keeps turning and turning. The game evolves and it evolves. And Harry Arthur always plays the ball with his left foot. And hold on, he started playing it with his right foot. Hold on, the gaffer didn't tell me that. Fucking hell, gaffer. Brains. This is why I can't get with a style of play, because I can't get on board with it. I just can't get on board with it. So what else is he going to bring? What else is he going to bring? And Gary O'Neill, look at what Gary O'Neill did. Gary O'Neill brought something completely different. He brought an attitude, and an aptitude. If you're not here to fucking win, fuck off. And I love about him. And I'll be nice, I'll be gentlemanly about it. And we're going to work together, and we're going to talk everything through. And that's how I look at it,
Scott Parker, when he was in that Liverpool game, he was very much, and afterwards, he was very much blaming the owner, Maxim Denham, who supported this club all the way through the leagues. It was all finger pointing blame. What Gary O'Neill did was he completely changed us. He completely modified what we was doing, because if we had consistently, under Scott Parker, we sat back too deep, in that Liverpool 9-0 thrashing that we had, sat back too deep, and they were just picking us off at ease. Pass. Oh, there's another one in the back of the net. It was easy. What Gary O'Neill did was, it was a ball draw. To be perfectly honest, it was a 0-0 draw against Wolves, but it was probably one of the most vital results that we could have got. It was a clean sheet. It was drilled that, right, this is what we're going to do, be a bit tougher. And he evolved. He didn't always get it right. He's still learning as manager. Like Iraola, if Iraola had persisted with what he did against Everton, and he probably did persist with it a little bit too long. That's why I did question, well, is he the right man? Is, what he's trying to do going to work in the Premier League? He evolved and therefore, become the manager that he is now. Whereas, and I can give a good example, Brendan Rodgers, for example. Brendan Rodgers is a really good one with Leicester City. Has taken over a good side on the up, a decent side. He's ran with that for a little while, and that's worked. But as soon as things started going wrong, this is something I've always said about Brendan Rodgers. As soon as things started going wrong, and he did the same. If you look back at Brendan Rodgers' career, he did the same at Liverpool, and one of the ones that looking back some time ago, was Reading. When he was there, you
Mm.
know, they were in a complete and utter mess. Steve Coppell had left the club. A lot of players had moved out. He didn't know what to do. And as soon as he didn't know what to do, he couldn't change it up. He just persisted with what wasn't working.
Mhm.
So if Ten Hag is getting into that path where he's just persisting and persisting and persisting and persisting, then it might be time to make a change. But who do you replace him with? I completely agree, Stu. You have to find somebody who is going to bring a new impetus. Results aren't probably going to change overnight, but somebody who can adapt things, somebody who can look at the Manchester United team and go, right, we need strength here. We need to move these players on. I think I'm of the view, looking from
Mm.
the outside in, that Manchester United should be competing for the title still. I
Yeah.
think you should be competing for the title.
Yeah. No. Well, look. The reason me and Jarvis do this show is we have a very similar outlook on the game.
Yeah.
We have differing views on how we get there, but ultimately we get the right way, because that's how we see football. The interesting thing is, though, for me, it's always a failure if you don't win that league. I don't care. If you finish second, it's a failure. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, it's a complete failure. It really is. You are out there to win that league. People say, well, and I always say this, famously, I always say this, Jarvis last time I say it, well, we won the first game, we're in a title race, because we're in a title race. We've won one game in, we've won, we're in a title race. And we're always in a title race, until you can't be there. You can't be there anymore. We're in a title race. I don't like finishing second. I'm a fucking terrible winner and a really bad loser.
Yeah.
Manchester United have no terrible winners. When you go in that dressing room, Chelsea have just beaten Everton 6-0. All right. And they might have hit the post twice. So when we're going in there, great 6-0 win. Yeah, but you hit the fucking post on 2 yards. Could have been 7. Could have been 8.
Yeah.
That's how I am. That's how we are. That's how you should. You shouldn't just take 6-0. Why didn't we win 8-0? Why didn't we win 9-0? Break the Premier League record. Why didn't we break that Premier League record? If you'd fucking scored those 2, we'd have been on 8. We'd have got 2 goals to break the Premier League record, 10-0. Chelsea, 10-0. Not brilliant for the opposition, I know, but 10-0. Here's the thing. Sorry, Mark, just one quick one. What you spoke about, the 9-0 defeat.
Yeah.
The question shouldn't be what should Scott Parker do about it. My question is what are the players going to do about it. If you're going in and you're 5-0 down at half time, I've got one question for the team, and that's it. How are you lot going to get yourselves out of this hole? What are you going to do to get out of that hole?
100%.
All the emphasis on them, and then it's up to the 3 or 4 or 5 players, the captains, and then around the team to get the players together and say, you know what? We ain't conceding this, stuff it. We're not going to win this game. We know it. Okay, we ain't conceding. That's it. Enough. Shut up shop. And then you go out and you get beat 4-0 again. Well, you have yourselves to blame. So anyway, sorry, Mark. I apologise.
Yeah, we're just gonna big up Mark for being a member for 7 months. So magic number 7. Big up, Mark.
Big up, Mark. Love you, dude.
I just want to add, you have a very interesting discussion now, and when it comes to motivation, it's on the players. We have already seen Man United perform as we did against Liverpool. We have had great games against Aston Villa, Chelsea at home. So we have seen snippets. So we know it's in a way it's not the level of the players. They can go there if they want to. We saw it. There's no way to hide after that Liverpool win. And now we see them drop down again and again. They dropped down against Brentford. And in a way, No disrespect, they dropped down against Bournemouth, and the thing is, as you said, we have better players. Why can't they perform every week in, week out, and give them all, and try at their best abilities? Players like Rashford is a conundrum in a way. We can't understand, and everybody tried to point out stuff like, for example, Rashford isn't bothered. He looks not motivated and stuff like that. But for me, I think it's more up to the style of play. I'm always on the style of play, and Stu, there's where me and Stu disagree sometimes. Now the transitional style, I think it's not Rashford's best attribute. He's not good at pressing. He's not good at working, tracking back, and now he's exposed in a way, and you see he's not thriving in the Ten Hag system. And that's a big problem. He can be as motivated as he wants, but he can't track back. He don't know how to press. It's not his style. He's not a hard working, grafting forward striker.
Yeah.
He's more of a luxury player, and he's good at he's fantastic at pace and find the space and run into it and shoot. That's Rashford.
Ivo Bokic agrees with you. That's exactly what he was talking about. If I can find his tweet, his message to me, he kind of agrees with you there, Jarvis.
Yeah.
If I can find it again. Sorry, I did put it up. But anyway, he was roughly saying that we don't have a clue on the pitch. And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. We don't have a clue on the pitch. And I totally agree with you. It's not Rashford's game, etc. But this is where me and Jarvis do disagree a little bit, because I think, well, you know what? If it isn't my game, I've got to learn how to play that game. I've got to learn it. I'm not, I'm not going to rely on other people. I'm the one who's got to learn it. You see, I always say, with today's day and age, there's absolutely zero excuse. Okay, when I first started watching Man United back in the 70s, 1977, if you had a black and white TV on the sideline, it'd be an absolute miracle. Today, Harry Maguire, if he's up against Dominic Solanke, say for example, and Jarvis eloquently put how Solanke plays, so did you, Craig. Yeah. But if I'm Harry Maguire, I'm walking in Monday morning, right? No, Saturday evening, I'm likely to be playing Solanke. So I'm going to do my training Monday, Tuesday, come Wednesday, after lunch. If I'm not doing any gym work, I'm in the analytic room. Okay, and I'm right. Show me the last 10 games of Solanke. I want to see his movement from the halfway line to the goal line. I want to see that movement. I want to see everything. Show me all his movement. And then I'm going to try and work out. So when the ball comes to me, does he take it with his left foot or his right foot? Does he chest it 5 times in a game or once a game? Does he ever go for a flick on or a backward flick? And I'm trying to look at everything. Jarvis mentioned about him taking 2 steps forward. Does he do it to the left, to the right, or centre? Does he spin in behind me? And if he does, which way does he spin, right or left? I want to be armed with everything, every little bit of knowledge. If I flick his ear, is he going to cry? That type of thing. But you can do all this. Harry Maguire could spend half a day, half an afternoon looking at it, taking the tapes home, looking at Solanke, getting inside Solanke's head. So when he comes and he takes that pitch on a Saturday evening, that it was, Dominic Solanke, here's my pocket sunshine. I'll put you in there now because I know what you're going to do, pal.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that? Why can't they do that? It's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. And you have a great point there, Stu. And people in the chat room now really fired. But first, we got to take this new membership from Grace Sheridan.
Yeah,
thank you, a new member. Welcome to the club, MUFC Realist TV. Thank you, Grace Sheridan, and being a new member. I just want to. I've added some comments there. Trevor Wade comes in and say, "What is the style of play? We don't have any. Ten Hag is clueless as we are," and a lot of people feel that, Trevor. And when I talk about style of play, as a manager, you shouldn't have one style of play. You should have a playbook with a lot of different tactics, styles coming. Like Alex Ferguson, he was a master of this. He had a playbook. It was like the Bible, so many pages. and chapters and everything. And I saw a little bit of this from Ollie, actually. People called Ollie clueless. He didn't have a style of play, but Ollie actually had the playbook. He changed up. Sometimes he played with the false 9. He put Lukaku on the right. He put Mata in the 10. He had so many different things, and all we sit back with is the counter-attacking style of Ollie, and I don't quite agree with that, but
That's why they call him
that's
clueless.
another discussion.
That's
Let's
why
say
they call
again.
him. That's why they called him clueless, because
Yeah.
he was smart. He didn't. I mean, if we come up to you, Craig, on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and we pop 3 at the back, 5 in the middle, top, what would you have done? Fucking hell, weren't expecting that.
Yeah, exactly.
10
Exactly.
odds are going to do 4-3-3 or 4-2-2, as me and Jarvis like.
Mhm.
You know, what would you have done if he'd done that? Whether we won the game or not, okay, let's be clear. But if you don't take that risk or give it a go, or make Iriola think, Jesus, I'm not set up for that. Oh, crikey, now what am I going to do? You know, that type of thing. And Jarvis is right. You know, good footballers, really good, talented, top of the game, elite professionals can play anywhere on the pitch. They really can. They can do it to a competent level, not a brilliant level, a competent level. And competency in the Premier League isn't always good enough, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is good enough to be able to do it. So, yeah, great point, actually, Jarvis. And many people wouldn't know, nowhere near would they have picked up what. And I think Iriola, by the way, does something similar, because I saw you change the way that you approached the game on Saturday.
Yeah, he does. And, you know, funny enough, Gary O'Neill before him used to do the same. You know, when I met Gary, you know, one of the things he spent literally about 15 minutes with us before he went back downstairs, and we was playing Brentford that Saturday, and he was studying, you know, the last 3 Brentford games and looking at, right, if Brentford do this, Ivan Toney does this, we do this. This is how we combat them. And we got a 0-0 draw against them. It wasn't the greatest of games, don't get me wrong, but you know, we nullified that threat. And that's what Gary O'Neill did very, very well. I know that we got rid of him, but Iriola seems to do the same as well. You know, he seems to be adapting. I think, you know, when he first come over to the Premier League, you know, I think he did well against Chelsea, did well against West Ham. I think the teams he struggled against was Everton. You know, I think he was dumbfounded by Everton's approach at first. The long ball, get into the box, try and hit Calvert-Lewin. You know, that caused all sorts of chaos. Brighton, you know, got to him. And that's why I thought, is he the right man? But he's adapted. He's changed his style. He's changed his style for each game. Against Crystal Palace, I looked at our team and I thought, what's this? You know, I thought, what's he actually trying to do here? But it worked. It worked. And, you know, I can only explain by he was probably studying the Palace team, studying, right, okay, this is what Eric Beshiezi can do, you know, because Zabania had him in his pocket. You know, there was one run through, and you know, it'll stick with me for some time. There was one run through that Arabeshi Ezi made. Now, I really do rate him. I really do rate him. So he's made this run through, and Zabania had no divine right to get that ball, but he made that tackle. It was pinpoint perfect, and you know that stopped a goal scoring opportunity. You know, Erebeshi Eze got into that box, we was in danger. You know, if another defender had made that tackle, you know, and I don't want to pick on him, but say for example, Chris Meffam, who is a little bit more rash. You know, he's a hard-working player, maybe not, you know, up to the level of the Premier League. But you know, he's a hard-working player. He's a valuable player as a backup. You know, if he made that tackle, you know, he'd probably have seen red.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. No. You see, again, a lot of I have to choose my words carefully because I always get myself in trouble, don't I, Jarvis? But what your point there is it's not necessarily about knowledge of the game, but it's actually reading the game and understanding the game. Me and Jarvis spend most of our time looking at what's happening rather than actually enjoying the game of football. We tend to look what's happening, really, mainly for our Monday night show that we do, because we like the technical and the tactical aspect of it. But it really is very, very finite on what could be classed as tactical and what isn't, because ultimately you put 11 players versus 11 players on the same size pitch, same size ball and the same size goals. So there's only an area that you can deal with. That's it.
Yeah.
And very rarely will space open up unless, as one of the lads was saying earlier, that quick turnover, that mistake is made. When Clivert was going across, if somebody comes in, smashes Clivert, wins the ball, we're off and we're away. We're gone straight out to Rashford or straight out to Garnacho, depending on whichever, and you're away. Attack the diagonals. Your defenders are backtracking. Cause it, make them make a mistake. Make them make the challenge. Penalty, or I'm going to pop inside you. Bang, goal. That's how. That's not even technical or tactical. That's just how speed of transition can sometimes work, but we don't do that.
It's knowing your own attributes as well. For example, Adam Smith. Adam Smith, I really, really, really do rate what he's been a great servant to this football club. But there was questions last season, whether or not he was past it. And again, there was a game against Brighton at home where he kept getting caught out by Matoma. Now, what he's done this season, what Iriola has done, is he's worked him to his advantages. So he's a little bit slower. Right, okay, stand off the player a little bit more. Make it more difficult. You're not going to go and win a one-on-one battle. But, you position yourself in the right place.
Exactly.
You are going to make yourself more difficult to beat. You're going to make it more difficult for that player to get the cross into the box. You've got big men like Zabania. If it does come in, Zabania and Senesi, to get it out. So that's what he does, and he does it so well. And he's been fantastic. Max Aarons, a signing from Norwich.
I loved him at Norwich. I did.
Highly rated. Leeds wanted him. We got him at the last minute. I really, really do rate him, but at the same time, Adam Smith, is playing so well that he can't dislodge him. And I'm a great believer. You don't just put in a player because they're younger. Because they maybe got fresher legs, or you want to bring through the young players. You have to go with what is going to win you football matches, and what is, as long as those players know what their attributes are, and how to utilize those best, I think he's fantastic. But,
you're more than welcome to come on our show anytime you like, because you're talking mine and Jarvis's language there.
Yep.
That's what we talk about all the time.
It'd be a pleasure. Anytime.
No, you've been brilliant. Guys, would you believe we've been going an hour and a half? So we're 15 minutes late for questions. So this is a time, Craig, where we get questions up. There may be some questions for you, or maybe not, but
no problem.
We will chuck one at you. So this is a panel question. So as you're our guest, you will get this first. And this is from Mark Davis. I hope you're still watching, Mark. If you're not, please rewatch it back, because your question is about to be asked. Can I ask the panel, do you think Ten Hag will be the United manager next year? Thanks, Mark.
No, I think that Sir Jim Ratcliffe will make a decision. Will it be the right decision? I think sometimes managers need time. Eddie Howe was unique in his way, that we were on rock bottom, when he took over and led us through the leagues. Iriola, if I had my way, back after that Everton game, if I was chairman, I probably would have said, look, Andoni, it's not working. The style's not working. But that would have been the wrong decision. That's why the football fans are fickle. However, I think Sir Jim Radcliffe will make the change. Will it
Mm.
be the right one? Well, soon to be seen. I know the chap at Bologna has been linked. It's a strange one, that. Very, very strange one. Um, who could Man United bring in? And who? I'd actually look at De Zerbi. I think De Zerbi would make
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, there are people who said De Zerbi. Well, what do you think, Jarvis? Do you think he will be there next season or not?
Yeah, the problem is we don't know how these owners think. In a way, we just heard the public, the PR from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I don't know actually, but the sensible thing would be to give Ten Hag a structure because we know he can do this. He did it with Ajax, and with the structure, he functioned very well in the Ajax structure, and he brought them to semi-final of the Champions League and had a great team with a lot of players. The problem now is I see he has struggled with, for example, play things that hasn't to do with transfers and squad building. It goes to in-game management, as I speak a lot of, and how to set up the things and do tactical tweaks in a way to win the game, because often it stands on a 50-50 point and it tips one or the other way because of actions of the manager. I'm not saying the manager is the one and almighty and can do everything, as you mentioned, do for the players, but they can tip the game one side or the other by doing the right or wrong decisions. And this is
Yeah.
where Ten Hag lacks a little bit for me. And the thing is, I haven't seen improvement from this season. He still do the same thing. His subs comes in late. He always predictable, and he doesn't change things up when needed. So I'm not sure if he should stay as a coach, but I'm a little bit 50-50 on this. So I
Um,
can't give a
no,
clear
that's all
answer.
right. I think he stays. That's my opinion. Here's one for you, Jarvis. It's Timmy. Good to
Hey,
have you
Timmy.
back with us, pal. Great to have you. Do you think we need more younger, faster, and stronger players with good ability on the ball and a good range of passing? Good tackling to play Ten Hag style of football at Jarvis Cocker. I can't believe he didn't ask me that. Only joking, it's to me. Only joking. Great
Well,
question. Great question.
the simple answer is yes. We need those type of players. I have been talking about we need ballers. I call them ballers because we need tactical players and who's good on the ball. And I have addressed that we need a player like Frankie de Jong who can drop down and swivel with the ball and be the maestro, the conductor, the guy who sets the tempo of the game. Sometimes you slow down, sometimes you speed up, and we don't have that. We only have Bruno who always speed up, and we have players like, I don't know, McTominay, who can't do anything basically other than run into the box and shoot. So it's not that easy, but we need, without a doubt, players like that in our team. And we have a young generation coming up who possess those abilities. And if we give it a little bit of time, hopefully we will see the 2023 generation come up and thrive and bloom at this Man United team.
No, absolutely. Craig, I'm going to give you Matthew's question. You kind of already answered it, but he's talking
Yeah.
about more of the clear outside. So, do United need Matthew? Thank you very much for your question, pal. I hope you're still watching. Do United need a new manager or a clear out or both?
He's my co-host, so he better be
Is he?
watching.
I hope he's
Yeah,
watching.
yeah,
I hope he's watching then. Yeah.
Um, contrary to what I said before, I think Sir Jim Radcliffe will make the decision, with regards to, getting rid of Ten Hag. And I think off the back of that will be the clear out. Will it be the right decision again? I think like I say, I think managers need time, and when you've got a ship as big as Manchester United, and a club who should be competing for the title, who haven't really found the person to get anywhere near replicating what Sir Alex did. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take some seasons to do that. But by persisting with the one manager, you will get there. But that manager does need to, and you've hit the nail on the head tonight. That manager does need to be very flexible, to amend his style of play, to look at the opposition. Shouldn't be going into every single game the same way, because that's what's messed up Brendan Rodgers, for example. That's why he's so successful at Celtic, because there is two teams in Scotland.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, so they both know how each other plays, and that's easy enough. Everybody else is also rans. Whereas in the Premier League, when you're managing Liverpool, yeah, fair enough. The smaller teams you might get the better of still playing that way. But when you come up against Manchester United, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, you're going to get found out. And especially when he went to Leicester last season, that's why they sleepwalked their way to relegation, because
that's right.
he couldn't adapt. He couldn't change it. He stuck so rigid to what worked all the time. What works one moment isn't always going to work. What Iriola's doing now isn't always going to work. And what Eddie did was Eddie had to adapt, because there was times, there was the start. I think it was the third or fourth season. I think it was just after, the record finish, and we went. I think it was 6, 7, 8 games at the start of the season without a win. I think we got a couple of draws in there. I might be wrong. So Matt, if you are watching, do correct me. But that season, again, like Iriola, you thought, right, well, he needs to change things, like Iriola did at the start of the season. So if Ten Hag is not willing to change, it's time to get rid. And no doubt the clear out will happen. There has to be a clear out of players anyway. Like you say, Rashford. If Rashford's not pulling his weight, and he's not going to pull his weight at a club like Manchester United, let's be fair. If I was given the chance to play for Manchester United, I'd work my socks off every single week. It might not be my football club, but at the end of the day, I'd work my socks off every single week, because you've got to be privileged to play for such a big club.
No, I totally agree. I actually think Ten Hag's got two saving graces. That first one will be 20 million quid in the hole, because you're going to have to pay him off in his backroom staff. Secondly, although it looks like Nagelsmann signed to go back to Bayern Munich. Very strange. You've still got Liverpool, you've still got Barcelona, potentially Real Madrid if Ancelotti hangs up his boots, potentially Juventus. All these clubs are looking for managers, unprecedented. I think I don't think there's a scope to remove Ten Hag. I reckon he'll get 12 months. That's what I reckon. But I could see it either way. I'm gonna Mark's been chipping at Jarvis all night. We love Mark. So Mark's produces for Jarvis Corner a lot. A great friend of the show. Brilliant guy. He's just setting up his own channel as well. So if you get a chance, please, everybody, please like and subscribe to Mark's channel. He's been chipping at Jarvis. He's a lovely guy. So you're right to reply, Mr. Cocker.
Yeah, I think we talk about the goals and the mistake thing again. How were they effective when both goals came from United mistakes, Jarvis? And I spoke about Bournemouth, and I think they were effective in the way they play. They have a set style. They play simple football, but effective football. As I mentioned with Solanke, he was always behind because we attack in the 3-1-6 formation. Everybody knows this. And we push up really high. But Solanke was smart. He dropped down to be behind the top 6. So he was always open to be playable. And this is a very smart move, dropping, because no centre back in the right mind would follow Solanke that high up the pitch, especially when you're just defending with three guys. So Solanke, he exploited the big gap in the middle of the pitch. So this is effective play, I mean, from Brighton, no, Bournemouth, and Iraola, I take my hat off from that manager. If he one day become available, I would actually like to see him in the Man United chair, because I have such respect for him as a manager, and how he set up his team, and how he get players to perform in a way. And he's not a flashy manager. He's not like De Zerbi and playing the tiki taka, what do you call it, new way of style of play. But he makes things simple and effective, and that's what I like in football. Simple and effective football.
Not too
Yeah.
soon, Jarvis. Not too
Yeah,
soon.
no, not too soon, but
We don't want to
he needs more
lose him.
experience. He needs more
Mark,
experience, but
Yeah.
I really believe in him, and especially when you consider what he did in Spain with what's the team, Zaragoza.
No, Rayo Vallecano.
Yeah, Vallecano,
Yes,
and there's a small club in Spain, and he took them almost to Europe,
Yes.
and always consistently, I think top 10 in 3 seasons in a row or something like that. So that's really impressive from that guy.
just before we tackle Brendan's question, Yarla has just made a statement. He said at the start, there is something everyone has forgotten, which we probably have. Manchester United still under a 100-day review by Ineos. Everyone will be judged when the review is over by the end of the season. Yeah, excellent point, Yarla. So thank you for that. Brendan's question, very, very simple. Do we have a midfield? I think he's made a couple of points. I haven't seen it. I think that's his.
Can I give a quick answer on that?
Yeah, just give a quick answer. Yeah.
I think we have a midfield. Indeed, we have. But I will use an analogy of Man United as an engine. And we have midfielders. We have Casemiro. We have Bruno. We have Kobe Mainu. So we have a group of good midfielders, and Mason Mount coming in, and Ericsson. And I think, in a way, if you use the analogy of an engine, you just miss the spark plug to get the engine firing. It's not, if the midfield isn't working, why throw out the pistons and the cylinders and everything because we don't have a spark plug? Go find that spark plug and get this midfield working. That's my analogy.
And that spark plug is the 6'2" Polinia from Fulham. He will do perfectly well for us. Anyway, I'll take this from Pig Riser. Here's a question: What the fuck has gone on with Malacia this season? It's very simple, actually. He had this injury, required an operation. Elected to go back home to somewhere in Holland to have the operation done. And there was complications that weren't recognised until he came back to the UK. Ultimately, what happens when you have an injury, and I made a point 3 weeks ago about not rushing Martinez back again, and unfortunately I was proven right. Your muscle memory of the opposing appendage, wherever the appendage is, whether it's your arm or your leg, gets a lot weaker because you're using more energy and strength on that particular thing. That's what was happening with Malacia. They had to do some research, found out that there was some bone fragments within the knee area, and he's had to redo it. As a footballer, it can actually play havoc with your mental kind of stability, because all you want to do is get back, and you're trying, and unfortunately it doesn't happen. We're not going to see Malacia until next season, and that's the right thing for the kid. We just need to leave him alone and let him recover. But I hope that answers your question. Georgie Best is in the house. Georgie Best is in the house. This is a question for Jarvis, but I'm actually going to give it to Craig, because I think Jarvis kind of touched on it as well. But Georgie Best, a friend of the show again, I hope you're still watching, pal. Jarvis, or in this case, we'll put a line through that and say Craig. Rashford thrived last season. Why not this season? I think you've already touched on it, but
I think it's down to professionalism. Like you guys have said, I've got, I've got so much time for him for what he did during the COVID period, but he seems to have lost, you know, his love for the game. See, that's what it feels like. So my best option, if I was Ten Hag, is if I can't get a decent decent figure for him, to actually get him out on loan, get him some game time, somewhere else, maybe uh, definitely a lower level, hopefully reignite him and try and bring him back. If he's not going to respond to that, or if he's not going to go on loan, he's not the right player for Manchester United. So I'd probably give him a chance. But yeah, personally, I think his head's just dropped. And to be fair, if you can't get yourself going for a club like Manchester United, are you really a footballer? You really a footballer? I could understand, if you're at Wigan or Reading or somewhere like that who are under financial constraints that you're worrying, week to week, are you going to get your wages at the end of the month? I can understand that. However, if you can't get yourself going at Manchester United, there's seriously something wrong.
No, totally agree. Great answer. Thank you for that, Craig. Grace, I don't know if you're new to the channel or not. Jarvis?
No, I haven't seen Grace, so welcome to the club, Grace. Yeah.
Welcome, and thank you very much for the question. Guys, do you think if we had a director...
She became a new member.
Oh, she did. Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
yes. Welcome, Grace. Yes, welcome. Director of football, when Eric came in, would he be in a better situation selling players and buying the right position? If you don't mind, guys, I'll take that. Grace, your question is a superb question, and the answer to that would be yes. Years and years ago, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, director of football, nobody would have even known what one of those is. Football clubs operate so differently to what they did back in the good old days, as I like to refer to. But today, running a football club as a manager is nigh on impossible. You can't set Alex Ferguson eyes Manchester United anymore, where he was the be-all and the end-all. Kenny Dalglish did it so successfully. Jose Mourinho's done it. So there's a list of managers that have done it. Today, you need that support from the top. They can put a good scouting network together. They can put a proper profile of footballers together, can talk to you and discuss with you what your plans are, what your vision is for your team, and then they can go out and they can buy the direct players around them. Absolutely. If Ten Hag had the Ajax system around him at Manchester United, I think he'd be, I think he'd have his feet well and truly under the table, and you would see some longevity finally as a manager.
Yeah.
Okay, Evo, always good for the questions. Jarvis, for you, question.
Yep.
If Erik Ten Hag can't implement his own style of play, here we go again. What makes anyone think he can implement the style, the football structure wants him to implement? That's not that. The director of football doesn't want the style of play. He discusses it with the manager, and then they implement the style of play. But Jarvis, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think you're right, and people got to remember the director of football is like the missing link in between all departments: the manager, the transfer guru, and the medical department, and everything is put together by the director of football, and he will try to pull all the strings to get them all working together for the best of the club and have a long-term vision. So I don't know if they will make Ten Hag change his style, but I will help him to achieve what his style is in a way. So this will be the simple answer of Trevor's question. Ivo's question.
Try. So Trev's lucky that I'm putting this question up, because he posed a second question, Jarvis, which quite frankly, disgraceful. Absolute disgraceful question. In fact, we should ban Trevor for that question. Trevor,
I'll ban him right away.
No, I love you to bits, Trev. But Jarvis and Craig, you can both answer that on my behalf. And it better be that to Trevor. I'm joking, Trev.
Do you know what? I think this has been, such a good conversation. It's different. It's unique to most shows that I go on. Actually, I did want to cover off Trevor's, previous question. If we
Yeah,
can bring
it was
back
for
up
you.
on
It
the
was for
screen.
you. Yeah, it was for you actually, Craig.
Yeah, because I can say this from, looking at it from a Manchester United perspective, looking at it from a Bournemouth perspective. Now, from a Bournemouth perspective, if we was to get into the Europa Conference League, it would be unbelievable. It would be amazing, to go to, the far end of Moldova to play some team that we've never heard of. Yeah, don't get me wrong. We would love a little bit of a European journey as fans. However, the big thing is at this moment in time, we haven't got the strength in depth as a football club to actually, cope with that from a Bournemouth perspective. However, from a Manchester United perspective, I think you would still be able to attract good players because you are Manchester United. What I think needs to be looked at here is, if the club was to miss out on European football for a season, it might actually help, model that team, build that team. It might not be necessarily the worst case scenario. Yeah, it is going to be lost revenue, but what would you prefer? Missing out on the Europa League 1 year, or the following season, getting to second in the league, back in the Champions League. You know, I'm sure that would be a preference over, you know, a little bit of a European journey, to actually have a side which is capable of fighting for the title.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Great answer, Trev. I hope that answers your question, swine. And look forward to seeing you next time. But before we can do any further, our good old mate Big Riser has popped in with 5 memberships. Absolutely superb, mate. Thank you so much. You get the Lennon glasses, pal. You get the Lennon glasses. Craig, next time you come on, you're gonna have to have something, like a neon
Oh
uh,
yeah, I'll have to
or
find some.
something. You're gonna have to find something, pal.
Yeah, I do actually have, a pair of, well, these are kind of, I normally wear contacts, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's the
get them
old
on.
Harry, there's the old Harry
Hey!
Potter glasses
Harry
there.
Potter classes, get them on, get them on.
Good, looking good.
Jarvis, who have we
We
got
have
in?
five new members. Relax
Brilliant.
and chill. Andreas Rasmussen, I think he's Danish. Edward Reed, welcome back to the club, Edward. And Ashid Miha and Jimmy Milligan, welcome to the club.
Welcome all.
And
Welcome.
remember to thank Pig Riser.
Jarvis, are you going to put Trevor straight then, please, before we move on?
Yeah, first of all, Stu is not a member, he's a co-host.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there you go. So I am
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah, and Stu is fantastic. I like his view on football, and he's a great lad. So Stu is always welcome and a part of Jarvis's corner.
Yes, thank you. And the mighty Tipton Town.
And mighty Tipton Town.
Jarvis, question for you from
Routinator.
Yes.
Routinator, big up.
Yes, thank you. I hope you're still watching. No Champions League, 50 million quid loss. No Europe or no Europe at all, 25 million minimum loss. So Carrick Ten Hag, 15 million, which is a point that I actually made. I think 20 million with his backroom staff. Where's the money coming from for recruitment this summer? I think he's talking about Sir Jim has got a lot to do. I'll just briefly touch on that. Actually, we necessarily don't have to worry about money at Manchester United because our generational income is on the rise, and as of next year, Vuganator, we have 95 million a season with Adidas. think it starts next year, doesn't it, Jarvis, or the year after?
Yeah.
And we've got a nice deal with Snapdragon on the front of our shirts. So the money, why Manchester United is so attractive is we are self-generating, almost like the self-generating City. No, we can't say that, can we? Because they didn't self-generate anything. But we are self-generating. There will be money available. What you tend to happen, because Manchester United runs a business, this next year's transfer budget would have been offsetting this season's figures, so you kind of save it up throughout the year. That's how you do it. Jarvis, anything to add?
No, I think you were spot on, and the only thing I can add is I think they're changing up the rules a little bit, so the debt wouldn't be as much important. It's more about the revenue, so I think we will have money. But the thing is, we have to spend our money wisely. That's the thing. We can't just waste 200 million and try to buy Mbappe. You know that will be silly. We have to be smart.
Mbappe, who's he? Never heard of him. He's out shaking world leaders' hands, isn't he, Mbappe? That's what I saw. Anyway, 2 questions left. We've actually got one for Craig as well, but we will leave that to the final question as our brilliant guest. So thank you very much for coming on, Craig. So, Jarvis, just a very quick one here.
Yeah.
Zerbi ball with these players sounds like a horror show. Tend to agree.
Yeah, but the thing is with De Zerbi, he's a coach more than a manager. He goes on the pitch in training suits and football boots every day with the players and train and coach them. And this is, people talk about Ten Hag. He's not a coach, and this is why people like De Zerbi more, because he has the on-field coaching and I can see a positive with De Zerbi. The thing is, his style is too expansive in a way with this group of players. I don't think it will work, but he's a great manager. And if we will do great in the transfer window and get rid of all the usual suspects, you know who I speak about, then maybe De Zerbi could come good.
I completely agree with your analysis on that. I think you're right. I think De Zerbi is a coach. He's got his tracksuit on and he goes in there with his pegs and he tries to influence what Brighton do. So, yeah, I tend to agree with you. Just before we do the final question, the gaffer has teed me up. He said, Stu, when are we going to see you in the pink top again? I can pull that out for you next Monday. No problem at all. And do I have pink boots? No. There's only 2 pairs of boots you'll ever see in my bag, and those are Copa Mundials and World Cups. The greatest boots ever. There is no more discussion to be had. Oh, unless you want to talk about Puma Kings or Nike Tiempos, but those are the greatest and grandest football boots ever. Love them to bits. Fit like a glove.
On that, in my bag, I always had a pair of flip-flops too.
I've got flippers. Yeah, I've got flippers and sliders.
Yeah,
4 pairs of boots because you never know. But I've always got 2 World Cups, two Copas. I've had to change my World Cups and my Copas, 1 pair after 20 years for both, so I've had to just change those. Football socks, knee supports. I could go on.
Grip socks.
Well, I've got a pair of Lucky Shreddies as well. Back in 1996, Budweiser were giving away free pants. If you bought a bottle of Budweiser with 96 on the back, they look like Shreddies, like Y-fronts, and I wear those. I've had them since 96. They're literally disintegrating, but I wear those. I shouldn't really tell you this, guys, but they're my lucky Shreddies. So we should do some of watching your football bag, because my missus laughs at me. So every Friday night at 7:00, she goes, "What are you doing?" I get me bag. She goes, "It's football." Hold on. If I go without something and I can't find it, I start panicking. So you got to do that. Craig, our brilliant guest, you do have a question, which is I'm really pleased. I take it. Do you know Gary? Do you or?
I don't know.
Well, thank you for your question, Gary. Is Gary new to the channel?
No. Gary is a legend of the channel. So he's one of the regulars.
Gary, welcome. I hope you're still watching. Craig, Has expectation amongst Cherries fans gone up since Iriola came in, challenged for a Europa League spot? Good question.
Yes, yeah, it is a good question. I actually spoke to Jim White, Simon Jordan, and Stuart Pearce with regards to this a little while back when Irio before the start of the season, and you know, Bill Foley was also on there just before me, and Bill Foley said, "Look, we want to go places. We want to build this team. But we don't want to do it all overnight." So the expectation from the fan base, is a lot higher than it was under Gary O'Neill. I think Gary O'Neill got a little bit of a hard end of the stick, to be honest, because the thing is, he kept us up. He did well. I was impressed with what he brought to the table.
Yeah.
But I think Iriola, it's now shown that it was justified, changing the manager, and Iriola's been fantastic. At first it took him a little while to get going, but yeah, he's got there. Europe, like I say, I think it would be bad at this point in time, because I think we would have to break PSR rules to actually get to that stage with the right sort of players. But there's no reason in 3 years' time why we can't be ready for Europe. Hopefully at that point we'll already be building a new stadium. Of course, stadium costs, like with the Everton situation, don't come into PSR. So,
Correct.
we won't be hit for that. But I think we need to do things sustainably. We need to build brick by brick, rather than going all out and just spending a load of money and then failing, because we've seen so many teams do that. Everton is the biggest one. Everton being beaten 6-0 tonight. They're the big one. That they went out. They went. Let's be honest. Farhad Mashiri, or if you read into it a little bit more, it was more Usmanov's money. Of course, war in the Ukraine breaks out. They come a cropper because of PSR, because most of the money isn't being put in by Farhad Mashiri. This is what I've read. And yeah, personally, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So yeah, we need to be careful. And yeah, thank you, Trevor. No, appreciate it, mate. So
Wait, don't suck up to Trev. Wait.
Yeah.
you were doing all right. You were doing all right. You've now blotted your coffee book.
Oh, Trevor, you're more than welcome to come and have a look at Up the Cherries in all departments. Come and say hello to us for every now and again.
Yeah, definitely, guys. We've done almost 2 hours 10 minutes. It's been an absolute wonderful show. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you guys in the VAR room have enjoyed it. The questions have been absolutely top draw as always. We will get Craig back on just to talk football with us. It doesn't have to be about Bournemouth. Just come and talk football with us.
Most definitely.
And if you want a couple of experts on your channel at any time, then Trevor's always free.
Honestly, definitely, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome on us, the Cherries and all departments.
Yeah, just reach out to us, guys. There's been some football boots come in. Mark's absolutely right about Diodora. Diodora, when I was growing up, were absolutely superb.
Yeah,
they had some superb players like Roberto Baggio, Donadoni were playing in Diodora boots. New Balance, Robson Pros back in the day. I could list football boots for years. Yeah, absolutely years. But Jarvis, I will hand it over to you to say thanks to everybody. And thanks again, everyone in the VI room. You've been superb.
I just want to say first of all, we talked a little bit about Rashford and what's gone wrong with Rashford. And today, Mick Ruby released a mini documentary about Rashford. It's called What's Gone Wrong. I just want to show you a snippet from this. And afterwards, I want you all to go to stay on this channel and watch this documentary.
Were raised when the forward was spotted partying in Belfast, Northern Ireland, around the same time. A waitress who was a key witness in this incident came forward and told the news that Rashford went on a 12-hour tequila drinking spree while in Belfast.
And that's that. It's just like a teaser for you guys. Go on, watch that. It's
Definitely
about
go and watch
15
that.
minutes long, and it's perfectly edited from Mick Ruby. So stay on MUFC Realist TV. And at the end of the show, big up to Craig for coming on, staying on for 2 hours, 10 minutes.
My pleasure.
Stu Wally, as always.
Pleasure.
And all the people in the chat, Trevor Wade, Mark, Evo Bosic, the Wootinator, Pig Ricer, Gary C. Who else do we have here? Lucky Singh with all his comments.
Stephanie Griffith's been in.
Mark Davis, Stephanie Griffith, so many of you, and for all the gifted memberships. Thank you for those. And we will be back next Monday, 9 p.m. As always, Jarvis's Corner. And see you on the next.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching MUFC Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.